Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to over 280 participants from 21 countries who are joining us today. So welcome to today's session to explore together new images for active aging in ACAP countries in new normal. With the global aging trend, images of aging are changing. I have been teaching gerontology for over 20 years at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Usually in my first class, I will ask my students of their perceptions on older adults. And over the years, I have found that more recently, my students' comment on older adults are getting more positive and more appreciative. So during COVID days, older adults are learning advanced technology to enable them to keep in touch with family and society. And this active aging attitude have really impressed their younger counterparts. So that was my personal experience. So today, let's hear from the experts. This webinar will explore new images of aging in several different countries, including Indonesia, Japan, India, and Hawaii. So departing from past negative stereotypes, speakers will discuss how new images of active and healthy aging are being operationalized through policy and research, through work and volunteer opportunities, and through arts. So what is special about this webinar? Well, apart from sharing their scientific data and research, our speakers are going to bring you a mini concert playing active aging songs from their own countries that would reflect how these new images and feelings. So stay tuned. Before we start the webinar, I would like to invite the two organizers to address us. First, may I invite Mrs. Rebecca Yong, founder and chair, Golden Age Foundation. Mrs. Yong, please.
Thank you, Teresa. Aloha, 欢迎大家. A big welcome to members of ACAP, Golden Age Foundation, as well as friends from different parts of the world to the 6th Golden Age Expo and Summit, which has adopted a hybrid mode for the first time. The virtual event, spanning a total of 30 days from August 16th until September 15th, will feature an impressive roster of global speakers and Expo members coming from a wide range of age-related professions. You may come into this portal anytime, anywhere during this period. So please remember to visit the exhibition space, view the products and services on display, and set up meetings directly with our Expo members through the chat box. This virtual event will bring us together, Asian countries and people from China, from Hong Kong. And this is a valuable opportunity for us to exchange information, develop good practices, and foster collaboration. The physical event will be held on August 27th to the 29th at the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center. So it will showcase around 100 booths with prominent speakers from the business, professional, government, and academic sectors, mainly from Hong Kong. Hong Kong and many Asian countries are enjoying much longer lives, which offer great opportunity for individuals and the wider society. But the way society talks about older people and aging is often negative and based on outdated stereotypes. Aging is often associated with decline and ill health, and older people are commonly portrayed as frail, vulnerable, and dependent. Such negative attitudes to older people have serious consequences. It will sow distrust between generations and potentially affect policy-making decisions. At Golden Age Foundation, we believe that Golden Ages, i.e. people 45 and above, are not only recipients of services. They seek meaning and purpose in the second half of their lives. by disrupting retirement norms and expressing increasing interest in lifelong work and volunteering. It is a talent pool that can enliven the economy as well as enhance productivity and social cohesion of our communities. Our mission is to empower them with capacity building programs of various kinds. As of now, we have hundreds of graduates who have attended our programs, and they are continuing with different roles and contributing to the society in the ways that they are passionate about. So at a physical event in Hong Kong, we will showcase a pool of outstanding Golden Age Fellows who have special projects working for escalating social inclusion, arts and culture, the green economy, as well as having different types of educational initiatives. So I hope this spirit will grow from Hong Kong to more places. And I truly hope that in this section, we can communicate a more diverse representation of the lives of the seniors or golden ages in different parts of Asia, what it means to be older without resorting stereotype, and how we could support them to live an independent and dignified life in the new normal. I believe you will get a lot of inspiration and useful information out of this section and create unique innovation that is suitable for your own communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Yong. I wish the event great success, and I hope that more people will join you online and at the physical conference. So next, may I also now invite Professor Catherine Brown, President of ACAP. ACAP stands for Active Aging Consortium in Asia Pacific. And Professor Brown is also a professor of public health and social work, University of Hawaii, USA. Professor Brown, please.
Thank you so much, Teresa, and thank you so much, Rebecca. I am so thrilled to be here. Once again, I think this is my 4th or 5th conference I've been to with the Golden Age Foundation. They are always brilliantly put on with lots of excellent information and fellowship among gerontologists and older people and the business community too. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for this opportunity again. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you, Teresa, for introducing ACAP, which is the Active Aging Consortium, Asia Pacific. And our mission is to really share friendship and best practices for active aging. We have some benefits. Well, we used to get together in real time, but now we get together virtually. But the last time we were in Hong Kong in 2018, here's a photo. But we learn from each other. We have a bi-monthly bulletin, a monthly webinar, and the best of all is that membership is free. There are no dues, and we welcome your participation. We like to feature news from around the region about aging, about any aspect of aging, and are happy to feature you and your picture and your story so that we can all learn. If you would like to join us, please send an email to my email address and I'll add you to our list. So as I said, we have monthly webinars. You can see a list of webinars that we've had this year. The red one is where we are now, images of aging, new images of aging. And I'm so excited to hear from our speakers today. But just to let you know that next month in September, we will have 2 webinars on the same topic about vaccinating our older adults against COVID. And we will hear some country updates on September 9th from Thailand, Japan, and Hawaii, and September 23rd from Singapore, India, and Hong Kong. So we hope you can join us. If you're on the ACAP listserv, of course, you will get notices of these. And finally, I'd like to introduce Teresa, who is our moderator today. Teresa Sien is a wonderful person and a longtime friend of mine and a fellow graduate of the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm a professor of public health and social work, and she has degrees from public health and social work from our university. It's very exciting. She has, of course, gone on to do wonderful things in Hong Kong. She's now an adjunct professor at Hang Seng University. also visiting professor at Respati University in Indonesia. And when I met her, she was the director and professor of practice of the Institute of Active Aging at Hong Kong Polytechnic University. She continues to have a role there with the Jockey Club Smart Aging Hub. She's been recognized by the Hong Kong government and many others and continues to be involved in a number of NGOs. But most of all, Teresa is just a wonderful friend and a brilliant moderator. So we're looking forward to this session with her today. So thank you so much, and thanks all for joining.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for your very kind introduction. Yes, I'm Teresa Tian from Hong Kong, and I'll be your moderator today. So today we have 5 distinguished speakers from Indonesia, UK, Japan, India, and Hawaii, USA. I am going to introduce them one by one. Each speaker will have 15 minutes, including their presentation and an active aging song. So if you have any questions or comments, please post them on the Q&A there. Then I will help to relay your questions to the speakers at the end of the presentation, except for the second speaker. Thank you so much for Professor Eve Hogovest to speak to us. And this is already 3 a.m. her time. So for her presentation, I would request that if you have any questions, please put it on the Q&A, and she will answer your questions right after her presentation. Okay, thank you so much for your cooperation. So the first speaker is Dr. Lilis Huri Miss Cici from Indonesia. Dr. Lilis graduated with a doctoral degree at the Public Health Faculty, University Indonesia. She is a researcher and also a lecturer in University Indonesia. She has been supervising students in nutrition, aging, health, and demography issues at different universities in Indonesia since 2010. As a senior researcher, she conducts many fields of research, both national and international, from various funding agencies like WHO, World Health Organization, and other Japan foundations. Her research topics include health, policy, aging, demography, community empowerment, gender, and older persons evaluation programs. She is now working on an elderly project with WHO and Ministry of Health. Today, her topic is New Image of Older Persons in the World. So, Dr. Lilis, please.
Okay, thank you, Professor Teresa, for introducing me and opportunity. Also, I want to thank to Professor Tribudi, who give me an opportunity to present this topic. Because I worry the connection, so I made a video presentation. And let me start to my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity and the invitation. I want to present about the global statistic on images of aging and changing paradigm. Today, I will talk about the global statistic of aging, perception and ageism, and decade of healthy aging based on the UN, WHO, and other official global data sources. Aging is an emerging key policy issue. Both the proportion and absolute number of all the people in population around the world are increasing dramatically. From these 2 pictures, we can see the changes of color that show increasing the older people population from 2015 until 2050. In the next slide, the pace of population aging in many countries is also much greater than has been the case in the past. period recorded for or expected for the percentage on the population of the population aged 60 years and older to rise from 10% to 20%. For example, France has almost 150 years to adapt to a change from 10% to 20% in the proportion of the population that was older than 60 years. But for Brazil, China, and India, will have slightly more than 20 years to make the same adaptation. This means that adaptation that these countries need to through will have to be undertaken much more quickly than was often the case in the past. For the next slide, we can see the increasing in older people driven with increasing life expectancy. In this data, life expectancy at birth by region, both sex combined, 1990 until 2050. From here, we can see all societies in the world are in the midst of the longevity revolution. The chance of surviving to age 65 rises from less than 50%. In the traditional societies, only a few individuals enjoy a long life, and from modern society, because of the medical progress and technological advance, led to increased longevity and a rise in the number of older people. As the older people population increases, the old age dependency ratio also increases. The old age dependency ratio is projected to increase in all regions of the world, particularly in Eastern and South Eastern Asia and Latin America and the Caribbean. Globally, there were 16 persons aged 65 years old over per 100% persons aged 20 until 64 years in 2019. In 2015, the global OADR is projected to increase to 28. From the economic perspective, we also see the economic old age dependency ratio. The economic old age dependency ratio, or economic OADR, uses information about the population, consumption, and production in a given economy, disaggregated by age. The economic OADR is defined as the effective number of consumers aged 65 years or over divided by the effective number of workers at all ages. In practice, the ratio is often multiplied by 100. And the population aging leads to a global increase from 20 effective older consumer aged 65 plus per 100 effective workers or ages in 2019 to 33 by 2050. Countries or areas with the highest economic old age dependency ratio are mostly located in Europe and Northern America. Another other people condition, the UN provide the data of living independently, mean living alone or living with a spouse, is likely to offer more privacy and control over household decisions, but also less companionship and sharing of household tasks. Nevertheless, the experience of living independently may differ between older persons living in more developed countries and those living less developed countries. At the global level, in 2006 and 2015, older women were more than twice as likely as their male counterpart to live alone. 24% compared to 11%. And the difference between older men and women living with a spouse only was 15 percentage point. It's around 38% for men versus 23% for women. How about perception of aging? Perception of old age can vary from one society to another, and it can change over time within any given society. Old age is often associated with negative representation of illness, disability, and low status, mostly unfavorable, and older people are often regarded as a non-contributing burden. Age stereotypes and prejudice can result in age discrimination, termed ageism. We can see here the global prevalence of ageism using data from one single survey. Around 60% of people in 57 countries from all regions and income groups reported that older people are not respected. And another result found that certain personal characteristics, for example, younger age, being male, associated with increased prevalence of highly ageist attitude. From the UN publication, that population aging bring many benefits to individual and society because of the living longer. Older person make important financial contribution to their families. Older person contribute significantly to the global economy. Older person are increasingly able to live independently. From the survey consists of 25 European countries, collected 23,872 people. The result shows that the proportion of people who think that discrimination against people aged 55 or more is very or fairly widespread varies from 63% in Bulgaria to 23.7% in Denmark. Based on the global commitment to achieve and support action to build a society for all ages, the UN declared a decade of healthy aging 2021 until 2030. This is the global collaboration aligned with the last 10 years of the Sustainable Development Goals that brings together all stakeholders to improve the life of older persons, their families, and the community in which they live. The decade will address four areas for action. First is the combating ageism, a change in the way we think about aging and older people. Second, age-friendly environment, creation of age-friendly environment. And third, alignment of health system to the needs of older people. The last is development of system for long-term care. Okay, the next presentation is here is two examples of song from Indonesia related to the older people. One of the song is about the older people doing to reach happy old age. Okay, enjoy these songs. Thank you very much for your attention.
Oh
the second song, Siapa Bilang Lansia Tidak Berguna. These songs tell the story of the spirit of the older people, that older people still benefit for their family. Okay, this is my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lillis, for your overall presentation of the global images of aging. We can see that it's still negative, more negative, tend to be negative. So that's why we are here today to discuss what we can do to improve this from negative image to positive image. So thank you. So for the participants, if you have any questions for Dr. Lillis, please send it to the Q&A and I'll relay your questions later. So our second speaker, Professor Eve Hogehouse from UK. Professor Eve is a professor of biological psychology at Loughborough University. She has conducted research in Indonesia with Professor Trubudi Raharjo since 2005, when both of them were working for Oxford University then. Eve has obtained £10 million funding with collaborations for her research and has written over 200 peer-reviewed international publications on prevention of older people's dependency with collaborators from all over the world. We're so fortunate to have Eve with us, and this is 3 a.m. her time. So I will request that the participants, please have your questions or concerns ready and send it to the Q&A box. Eve will try to answer your questions right after her presentation. Thank you. Professor Eve is going to talk to us on active aging and dependency in different ethnic groups in Indonesia. Professor Eve, please.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Teresa. I would like to thank you and Rebecca very much for enabling me to speak here today. I'm going to share my video with you. I hope you can see it. Yeah, okay. So today I'd like to talk about active aging in Indonesia, and I'll be mentioning some projects obviously with Professor Trubudi Raharjo, who is my mentor and collaborator in Indonesia. And I'll also be talking about the work of my colleagues, Dr. Yvonne Handayani and Dr. Yuda Tuana from Atmajaya University in Indonesia, Elizabeth Schroeder-Butterfield from the University of Southampton, and Dr. Philip Krieger from the University of Oxford, and various others who have been involved in these projects, and I mentioned below. What is active aging? Well, Professor Zaidi put together a model of active aging for the WHO in 2015, which is displayed here, showing that, as Dr. Lillis outlined in her excellent presentation, that older people can still be very actively involved and can contribute in society by being employed, by participating in society, by taking care of people through their independent, healthy and secure living. And that is all helped by societies which, as Dr. Lillis indicated, is now a UN plan to create an environment that enables older people to live an active life, which includes access to the use of ICT, enabling older people to be socially connected and have lifelong learning. So we investigated how active aging impact on the risk of dementia and dependency in Indonesia in 3 multi-ethnic regions. We looked at Jakarta, in a population of Javanese and Sundanese older people in Sitanga, which is close to Bandung here, and consisted of 100% rural Sundanese elderly, and around Borobudur, which is close to Jakarta, in a population which consisted of 100% of Javanese older people, to see if there were differences in ethnicity and regions. So what about aging in Indonesia? Well, currently in Indonesia, almost 10% of the population is over 60, and the population currently consists of 270 million people. So that makes about 26 million older people. But this will increase to about 80 million by 2050. Dementia, we estimated on the basis of our data using validated tests from Oxford that from around 1 million people with dementia currently in Indonesia, this would increase fourfold by 2050. And dementia obviously has very high care needs. It's very costly both in human and economic terms. Then dependency, needing help with activities of daily living, we found that about 1 in 5 in rural Borobudur, that area close to Jakarta, needed help with activities of daily living, and they were over 60, but only about 1 in 10 in the rural Sundanese and in the multi-ethnic Jakarta areas. And we could see similar aspects for dementia, suspected dementia here, with very few people in Jakarta and relatively few people in Stinga compared to the rural areas around Borobudur. Now, what are the risk factors for dependency and dementia? Well, we have demographic factors, we have lifestyle factors, and we have disease, which can impact on your ability to live independently. And these all interlink with one another. Now, we used the active aging model of Professor Zaidi and his colleagues and combined that with these morbidities and the risk factors for morbidities associated with dementia and dependency. And we divided these, we slightly reordered them and divided these active aging indicators into physical material resources, older people being in paid occupations, having access to healthcare, being able to live a healthy life, reporting that they're living healthy lives, living independently, and being safe, both in terms of poverty, being safe from financial stress, but also physically safe. So being able to live in an age-friendly environment, as Dr. Lilly's outlined as part of the UN new strategy. What we also looked at was whether people were physically active. Then on the other side, we have psychosocial resources, such as how much education have you had? And are you continuing to engage in lifelong learning, using computers, having hobbies? How happy are you? Are you volunteering, taking care of people? And how can the community contribute to this? And the idea is then that these physical and material versus psychosocial resources compress the needs. And we wanted to investigate if this model was indeed correct. And we found in our analysis that some factors really jumped out at us. People who reported healthy were much more likely to be independent and had less risk for dementia. People who were physically active, people who had high education and continued to educate themselves through reading and ICT use in another cohort, and people who engaged with activities in the community. Recent data from the IFLS from Professor Yvonne Handayani showed that the risk factors were the same almost 10 years later in these areas. And what she found, like us, was that an older age, low education, living in the rural areas was a higher risk for being dependent and having memory problems indicative of dementia. Again, poor health and not engaging enough in physical exercise or engaging in social activities was predictive for dependency and memory issues, but also having low life satisfaction and depression. And we in earlier analysis had also found that people who were less happy had much more risk for dependency and memory impairments. So we did some work at Loughborough University. Loughborough University is known for its sports and exercise programs, to see if we could come up with a program of resistance training using resistance bands. And if you're interested in that, please look at Couch Potatoes for Cognition in Loughborough University, and I'll put that link on the chat. We compared that against flexibility training using yoga exercise. So this was just stretching. And what we found was the people who engaged in the strength exercises using these resistance bands had much better memory compared to the people who did yoga after 6 and 12 weeks already. And this was also the case in people who had dementia. Now, important is from our literature reviews is that it's not just about physical exercise, but also having psychosocial stimulation. So what we call multi-component exercises are probably the best. And this is a little movie made based on the data from Professor Diamond in 1964, who showed that if you put all the rats in stimulating environments, their brain cells can still sprout out. So it's very important to have these multi-component exercises to be moving around and be stimulated. And even in older people, we can still see that the brain cells have more connections after engaging with these activities. The Center for Aging Studies, Respati University and Atmajaya have been very active in providing activities for people of an older age. And here you can see some of these activities, and I'll show you more of these in a minute. Important is that their work has had very important impact. And here is Professor Tribhuti Rajaharjo meeting with the Minister of Health. And through these very important governmental connections, our work also has an impact on local and national governmental strategies. And here is the rest of our team from the Center of Aging Studies. Here's Dini, who I saw was on the chat. So what sort of activities do people engage with? Well, here we see this is a program from Atmajaya doing activities, exercise activities in the Puskesmas, the primary healthcare centers. And here are activities in Depok in Jakarta, organized for the older people, singing, knowledge, games, music, etc. Gatherings together, which we found were so very important to maintain independence and reduce the risk for dementia. Now, what we found was that in the different regions, there were slightly different risk and protective factors. So in Jakarta, the majority of people who were shown to benefit from exercise and reading actually were shown, when we did these analysis in the subgroups, to reside in Jakarta. Now, the people here were characterized by being quite affluent. It's very expensive to live in Jakarta. And also they had access to care homes and medical care and hospitals. Now, in rural Sitanga, they sort of sat between the affluent Jakarta and the very poor areas around Borobudur. And here people reported to be less healthy, but actually when we looked at their physical state, they had much less risk of dependency and dementia than in the rural areas around Borobudur. They were also more likely to live with their spouse. And so perhaps being dependent or having dementia had less impact there. Now, in rural Borobudur, this is where we found a very high prevalence of dementia, and this up to 16%, and this in some of the older people. And this might be because people had less access and uptake for medical care, and they were also much less likely to do exercise and feel quite depressed and live with their relatives. So what can we do? Well, in Indonesia already, we have CADERs volunteers who are trained to provide health provision, exercise, and other community-based activities for lifelong learning, which are enjoyable. So the emphasis is on fun. They're monitored by the puskesmas, the primary healthcare centers, and these cadres, the volunteers, are trained by the universities of Indonesia, Respati, and Atmajaya, for instance. This system, working with volunteers and training them to provide healthcare, basic healthcare facilities, the exercises and the community-based activities, which is so important, is a very cost-effective way to prevent dependency and dementia. I think that program is very successful, and it recently won a prize because Indonesia was very proactive when COVID hit to help and support the older people. And I'll be giving a talk on Saturday on COVID and dementia, which was very bad in the UK. But in Indonesia, very early on, people were very proactive in protecting the older people by continuing to provide these healthcare provisions and engaging them in activities and social interactions, which is very important. So one of the things I mentioned I want to end with is what makes older people happy. Well, when we looked at the data, we found that people who felt secure, who played more sports, who walked more, who were socially active, were also more active, were also more happy. So we can see that there is a circle here between being happy and healthy and independent, being with others and feeling secure. Now, this is where the community centers can help older people to be active and engage in activities that are meaningful to the person, that can be supported by the spouse, and that consists of these health checks, physical exercises, giving people the sense that they're part of a community and transferring knowledge about better health and better aging. And I'd like to finally share some images. This is, of course, APAC, which is a wonderful community of younger and older people working together. And here is my mom. She's 88. She lives all by herself. She's doing her exercises here. She's reading lots. She's cooking healthy meals for herself. And this is my father-in-law who walks 5,000 steps a day. He's 90 and he comes to us many times a week to engage with dinner and play with our pets. So I'd like to thank everybody who's been involved in this research, the University of Indonesia, Oxford and Cambridge, where I worked prior to coming to Loughborough, and of course the people who helped us with the research, the collaborators, the participants, and the funders who are currently funding our work. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to take them. I see that there are no questions yet. So Gary, would you be able to start the song? This is a song that Professor Tribhuti Rajaharjo sent to us. And it's important because yesterday was the 76th day of independence for the Republic of Indonesia. So the song is played by retired lecturers from Respati University, and it shows how people can engage with active aging in a wonderful collaborative way. Would you play the song?
aging, health and active 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 aging. Hi everyone, we need your support. Create a friendly environment for all of us. Our young generations, on your shoulders you bear the future of our nations in the world. Being active aging, we remain active. Being healthy aging, we remain healthy. Being active aging, we remain active. Being healthy aging, we remain healthy. Health and active aging, 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 health and active aging in the world. The spirit of active aging is like the rhythm of Saruni in our heart.
Sorry, there was a slight error here. This was actually a song on healthy aging by the students of Respati University. But as you can see, young people can work together very well with old people to ensure healthy aging. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you so much, Eve, for your very inspiring presentation. Yeah, it's good to know that, just by going to social gatherings and attending community activities, we already reduce dependency risk. And also, if we continue with our lifelong learning and do some strength exercise, will also help to promote, our memory. So that's very good news. Thank you. So I'll see if we have any questions from the participants. So far, no. So I think Eve, you have done a good job. So, well, I'll let you go. Yeah, and good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Almost 4 a.m. your time. Thank you. Thank you, Eve. Yeah.
Thank you, and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Our next speaker will be Professor Takio Ogawa from Japan. Professor Ogawa is Emeritus Professor of Yamaguchi University and Kyushu University, Japan. Professor Ogawa is the president of specific nonprofit organization, Asian Aging Business Center. He was the project manager of the Preventive Long-Term Care Promotion Project in Bangkok Metropolitan Administration. He is the emeritus member of Japan Social Gerontological Society, and also a committee member of Fukuoka City Master Planning Council and Fukuoka City Council of Health and Social Welfare. And very importantly, Professor Ogawa is the founder and first president of our ACAP, Active Aging Consortium in Asia Pacific. So Professor Ogawa is going to talk to us on changing image of active aging in Japan. Professor Ogawa, please.
Thank you very much for kindly introduction for me. And I will share my presentation. Can you share? And in Japan, aging is a very popular social phenomenon. And in accordance with the population aging, the Japanese policy focus on the active aging, not only the healthy aging, but also the active aging, and focus on the not only the leisure activities but also the productive activities. And in Japan now, we are not only aiming for a society where everyone can live long life, but also a society where everyone can live healthy and well-being. As indicators, there is a shift in interest in extending the healthy life expectancy rather than the life expectancy. In recent years, the differences between the average life expectancy and the healthy life expectancies of a child born and the life expectancy and the healthy expectancy at age 60 tend to increase slightly in recent years. In order to achieve active aging, these differences must be narrowed. In the framework of the healthy aging posed by WHO, long-term care, the concept of the long-term care is added, but also additionally, we Japanese further developing some new areas called preventive long-term care in Japan. Preventive long-term care is based on the recognitions that it is necessary to review lifestyle habits from the earliest times to prevent old age. And lifestyle disorders cause the frailty to proceed in a domino toppling way. It also creates varieties of symptoms, including metabolic syndromes, locomotive syndromes, oral frailty, and dementia. In order not to fall into these dysfunctions, it's necessary to start by reviewing lifestyle habits. I will introduce a healthy aging song in Japan at the end of my presentations. My high school classmates wrote these lyrics. Anyway, the graph shows change in the index, how many the aged 14 and under 64 supported by 100 working age population between 15 and 60. And the orange line is an index that supports the under 14 age populations, but there is a tendency to decline and stagnate. So to speak, with the lower fatalities, the burden of raising children is expected to become less heavy gradually. However, the indexes that support the aging population, the gray line, this is consistently on the rise. It shows that the burden of the working age population is increasing as the age population increases. The blue line is called the dependency population index. It has been reversing from a right shoulder down to a right shoulder up since 1995. When the total dependency ratio is down, it's said that age structures of the population was favorable situations for economic growth, and it's called a population bonus. However, if this becomes a right shoulder up, it's said that it will be a burden of the economic growth and is said to be in a population owner situation. Therefore, When we look the annual change in the labor force participation rates by age, it's urgent to raise the labor force participation rate of the elderly of men and women in general in the futures. In order to accomplish these transitions, we will have to focus on recurrent educations on or lifelong learning. In a modern society, every country has created 3 stages of lifespan, life plan, upper plan, yeah? It is an age-differentiated styles, learning in a younger age, working and taking care for family in the middle age, and spending times for leisures and volunteerings in later life. However, aging and the aged society is requiring its paradigm shift. It's an age integration styles of a society. On the lifelong learning, everyone will be able to engage in every job styles in every times and everywhere. If we need new knowledge and skills, we will be able to learn them. The age-friendly society should provide this opportunity for older persons. This program should be lower plans. In 1981, a nursery release called Computer Grandma because popular in Japan became popular in Japan. It was a symbolic role models of the actions active seniors. And 40 years later now, the image of this older persons is realized now. There are some active seniors. Masako Wakamiya, 86 years old. She is a computer programmer. And she is very, very active in this field. And younger generations learn from her activities. Also, Kimiko Nishimoto, she is 93 years old. She enjoyed the Instagrams by her photos. She can fly with bird. She can run with car. She can can play gymnastics, and she can fly with like as widows. And this kind of playing is a very, very popular for her, and every person impressed her photos. If the elder can acquire the computer literacy, a way of life living is the new society will be opened up. Then older persons are now at the stage of starting various initiatives in Japan in the era of Society 5. If technology such as AI and robots to be utilized in the lives of the elderly, ambitious elderly peoples will be able to contribute more and more to the society. Urban developments and entrepreneurship based on these ideas has already begun, and local governments have begun to support such co-creation activities. At the end of my talk, I will introduce the healthy aging song in Japan. Its titles as a Pinkoro Ondo. Pimpin Korori and Pinkoro is a Japanese onomatopoeia. Pimpin and Pin explain the healthy and the energetic conditions. Korori and Koro explain the sudden death, which is the double meanings of victory goal. Ondo is a chorus song in Japan. This song explains we wish to live healthy and to die without long suffering. The lyrics looks like this. Let's strive for health without illness. Get regular meals and sleep. Controls of salty, sugary, and fatty foods. Eat veggies and drink enough waters, and we will be pimping colori, pincolori. Laughter and exercise are secrets of youth. Commit to a daily schedules, dress up and go out occasionally. Have many friends you can talk to, and we will be pimping colori, pincolori. Mental well-being is so important. Forget negative thought to reduce your stress. Have interest in life and embrace your life's purpose, live happily, and we will be pimping colori, pincolori. Let's listen to the Japanese healthy aging song, please. Thank you. And beyond these kind of healthy aging songs, we Japanese looking for the new songs of active aging now. Thank you very much to your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Ogawa, for your very interesting presentation. We really have a lot to learn from Japan. And, you know, we are glad to learn that, you know, preventive approach is always better. So now your government is trying to have prevention on long-term care, extending the retirement age, through creating diverse employment opportunities and promoting life shifts through lifelong learning. So I think these are all great ideas. And I particularly like the idea of naming our seniors as pioneers. I think the names are very important.
Yeah.
And I think Singapore has also done that too. Yeah, so we should all think about that. Thank you so much. Okay. So we'll hold the questions until the very end. I want to apologize that, you know, actually after Professor Eve Hogerwall's presentation, there are a few questions. And I have quickly asked Eve to answer your questions and she will put it at the Q&A. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on to the fourth presenter. The fourth presenter is Dr. Chandrakala Diyali from India. Dr. Diyali is Senior Assistant Professor in Amity University. She holds a PhD and MPhil degrees in social work from Lucknow University. And her BA and MA are from Delhi University. She was a recipient of research fellowship from UGC. Her academic and research interests include geriatric social work, child and women's rights, counseling, gender studies. She has many publications in reputed national and international journals, and has her first ever book on women of Sikkim, is a minor project, published by National Commission for Women. She is an ACAP member and an international visiting faculty of University Westpati, Indonesia. So, Dr. Diyali is going to talk to us about active aging in urban India prior and post-COVID from a social work perspective. So, Dr. Diyali, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Teresa, for having introduced me so nicely. And I would like to even extend my gratitude to Professor Catherine Brown from ACAP. She's the president. And Professor Teresa, I would like to even remember Professor Tribhuti here. And I would like to really thank the organizer, Golden Age Foundation, the co-organizer, Active Aging Consortium for Asia Pacific, and to Professor Rebecca Chaw. Today I'm here to talk about, my topic basically is focusing on active aging in urban India prior and post-COVID, a social work perspective. Here I share my PPT. Is it seen here? Yeah. Am I audible? My PPT is seen? Teresa, may I please know my PPT is seen or not?
Yes.
Shared?
Very good.
Yes?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, active and healthy aging in urban India prior and post-COVID, a social work perspective is my topic. But before I begin with, my presentation, I would like to emphasize that, we cannot kind of survive for, active and healthy aging in vacuum and in isolation. Any organization, any society, any person, a professional, practitioner, anyone who is working for to achieve active and healthy aging has to understand that the aged people are living, not only their life expectancy should be increased, but their meaning of life should be enhanced. And meaning of life will be very, very, the meaning of life would be added if, we are associated with people, interrelated and interdependent, and we are, integrated in the mainstream society. So with this, we cannot just say, okay, we are focusing on the elderly, and elderly, it's like, we are living in a society where elderly is one of the section of the population, right? So it is like one section of the population, and then this section of the population is very important to the society because they have had long, lifelong experience. They have been, very successful in enduring all the trouble time, and they have been, very resilient to all the, catastrophe or any kind of disaster that has, come, that they have faced in their lives. Okay, so we are not supposed to make a mistake as organization professional to just focus on the active aging and then, kind of focus on how to build a section of the population, but we have to be very focused on active aging, healthy aging, but meaningful aging as well. And when I'm saying meaningful aging, that means they are connected, well connected with the family members of all the age group, and they are connected with this community they are living in. They are connected with the society as a whole, right? And they are well informed. They are, actively participating. And yes, it is, they are not, seniors are not dependent population, but they are interdependent. That means the other generation, they are depending on them, and they are depending, if the source of income is not there, they are depending on the other member of the family for their sustenance. But they are in constant connection, and they are in a very positive relationship, and they are contributing to each other's life. Okay, so here I go. Before I begin, so the old can go through every cup. His line shows us the way of wisdom to take the golden age population together, integrating them through the process of our pain, sorrow, struggle, and recovery as we live through these troubled times. Albert Camus. So these are my parents. I was very thrilled to see Professor Eva parents. The mother, sorry. She's above 85 and all. So my father is again, 85 years old, and my mother is 78 years old, and they are living happily, they are living healthily, and they are living meaningfully, because they are well connected with the family and they are interdependent, right? So, globally, the population aging is rapidly, increasing or rising. And WHO has emphasized that 2025, the world population above the age of 60 years will be 1 billion and 2 billion by 2050, which is 1/5 of the world population, United Nations 2017. The common scenario will be seen, now this scenario will be seen, the rise of elderly population. There is a reverse, demographic scenario that we can see. Majority of this increase is set to occur in the global south. Now, global south would be having, a majority proportion of the elderly increase in population, with 80% of all older adults living in low and middle income countries. Low and middle income countries, World Health Organization 2019. In India, we have a rapid growth in the aging population in the last few years. According to 2019 CII report, India will have 330 million individuals aged 60 and above by 2050, according to 18%, accounting for 18% of our total population. So in India, reports indicate that the share of older adults is estimated to increase from 8% in 2015 to 20% in 2050, United Nations Population Fund 2017. It has given the report. In 1995, the average life expectancy, as far as Indian scenario is concerned, in 1995, the average life expectancy was 65 years. But now with the turn of the century and all, so 2025, the life expectancy is going to be 73 years, right? So the United Nations recently declared, so, you know, now when the life expectancy is, there is a scenario that in future, the proportion of elderly people will be more. So we've got to have a lot of preparedness, because they are not because only they are dependent population, but they are very valued seniors. They are going to be important. They are a resource in order to take the civilization further. So we've got to value them. So we've got to prepare ourselves. And United Nations very nicely declared 2021-2030 as the decade of healthy aging, with WHO leading international action. And why, you know, UN has declared 2021 and 2030 as the decade of healthy aging, just to focus on improvising the life of older people, their families and communities. Now, causes of increased life expectancy, all of us, we know, because of advancements of medical science and technology, that has led to increase in life expectancy, because we can do away with or get cured with a lot of communicable and non-communicable diseases with the proper medication. So that is there in place these days, even in the developing countries like India. So, and enhanced affordability of living is also there. That means they can afford to, you know, kind of spend on different, you know, aspect of their life, which are very important for them to enhance their longevity, enhance their, you know, kind of active aging, right? So it could be entertainment, it could be healthcare measures, it could be good food, it could be luxury, it could be, you know, physical activities, it could be going to gym, Zumba, and anything, you say, you know, we call it these days. The democratic change is causal. And so this democratic change, which is causal to, and this demographic change, that is reverse, you know, demography. Earlier, we used to have 0 to 4 years population, you know, a rate of increase of 0 to 4 years of age population, and then above plus 60 were lesser in proportion, but now it's become reverse, you know, and it's nearly reverse. So we have larger population, so we've got to be very careful in order to handle every segment of the population, so that our life and living would be more meaningful for one and all. So, and it's because of the changing family structure also, because of out migration, you know, the elderly are left, and then because of you know, because of the women in the house, the young women and all, they have started participating actively in the economic sphere, and they do not have time to, you know, give birth to many children. So they have a lot of good, you know, family planning in place. So that's for the reason there is increase. Burden of disease. So now, because of that, now burden of disease, you know, that is pushing the demand for medical and non-medical senior care. Health challenges and demand on healthcare system is there. So we've got to be careful about budget allocation, the workforce participation, and legislation and policy framework has to go in line with the growing number of, the growing proportion of elderly in the population, so that the, you know, the kind of, the country would prosper and everybody would be happy, you know, and you know, the country has to prepare itself in order to cope up with building pressure on resources and infrastructure that is trying to adapt in this changing scenario, particularly in the developing and underdeveloped countries. And this demographic shift towards a higher proportion of older adults and the associated health and social care expenditure makes healthy and active aging a public health priority, right? So health and social care costs usually increase as people age due to a gradual decrease in physical and mental capacity. That is there. That is a biological, you know, aspect of it, that, you know, biological cycle. As we age, there is less of, everything, physical and mental capacity, growing risk of disease is there, frailty is there, physical injuries are there because you have a, you have a fear of fall, and cognitive health also gets affected. So that has been emphasized so well by and elaborated and emphasized by Professor Tokyo and Professor Eve and professor from Indonesia. So moreover, older adults are more likely to experience several health conditions, communicable and non-communicable diseases at the same time, with continual challenge in relation to face as they age.
I think the next
and
to wrap up with all this.
Okay, so there is an urgent need for global community to
good. Mine's going to be the least anything. Yes. It's just.
Therefore, there is an urgent need for global. Now, I urge the global community. Last time also when I presented, I said, we've got to act as, it's like think globally, act locally should be the perspective, So I urge global community to strategize towards increase the need for better geriatric-oriented care by following a multidisciplinary team-based approach in order to tackle the multidimensional problem, because problems are multidimensional and challenge to put our focus on the quality in active aging. The constructive change would help the world and every country to positively move towards demographic bonus. That means where no section of the population would be called dependent population. Everybody would be active and involving as a productive member of the society.
Professor Diyali, could you please finish in 2 minutes?
Okay, so yes, so we have to truly uphold the rights of older person in legislation and national policies, and we have to use 3-prong, that is prevention, protection, and then promotion, in order to value our section of the population who are torchbearers for the human civilization, right? So urban planning. Now here, when I'm talking about urban planning, I've already said healthy, active living older adults is a forefront of global planning policy debate, resulting concept and design guidelines to support population aging. However, current urban planning in India is overlooking the design of age-friendly cities because it is focusing more on the active population, the design, the infrastructure built is only focusing on that. Okay, so here I would like to now go to the focus of my paper. The finding, now see, many findings have concluded that 3 themes are very important in order to enhance the active and healthy and meaningful aging. That is neighborhood design for active aging. That is, we should have access to neighborhood amenities such as transportation, parks, and green spaces. Several studies have also, investigated the association between built environment characteristic and physical activity in older aging, and found safe, walkable, green, and aesthetically pleasing neighborhood with access to different destinations and amenities to be important. All right, and this next is social participation in community spaces. Opportunity for leisure and social interaction play a key role in determining older adult health and quality of life. So social participation is very important because that would keep our cognitive, the mind very active. And when we are involving, we are taking part, when we are taking taking decision, our mind, every cells of our brain, it gets activated, and that will help us to live very, very meaningfully. Right. And then next is, okay, just a second. Now navigating urban transport and mobility, it is very, very important that, older adults, since I have already told you the fragility of cognition, the fragility of physical, psychological, every aspect of the life gets a little fragile. So navigation in the urban transport and mobility is very important. Among older adults, poorly maintained street, lack of traffic management, and lack of physical segregation between pedestrians, cyclists, and motorist vehicles contribute to increased risk and fear of falling. So built environment, stressors, and another stressors are, loud horns, speeding vehicles, lack of pedestrian facility, and physical disorder also add to the older adults' anxiety level. So, that would make the elderly very, very socially isolated. And, post-COVID or during the COVID time, we have already experienced that because of the physical distancing, not social distancing, physical distancing, the elderly have already been, named as people who are having less of immunity, and they are the spreader, and also they were isolated, even for vaccination and all in India. The elderly are being given at their own homes, and all the government is trying to find a mechanism to provide them vaccination at home so that they don't get infected and they don't infect others. Okay, so we have to be very careful about urban planning. So the planners has to have a sensibility in order to make the urban area more feasible for elderly living. Yeah? Then. According to World Health Organization, older adults should accumulate at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity throughout the week. World Health Organization 2010 that emphasized that physical activity is very important, but where would they have physical activities if you are not, because of pandemic, they are not allowed inside the home. The environment is such that everybody has to get accommodated in the house, and we Indians, being more of a joint family and all, we have to live in a small spaces. And but in urban areas, yes, we are mostly nuclear family. But still, we've got to have a larger space for elderly so that they will be able to move around, do their exercises, yogas and all properly. So, but yet national statistics in India indicate that the majority of older adults are not meeting these guidelines. Right. So these guidelines, when we are, adhering to the UN, directives of how to, what are the provisions that are to be in place for elderly in order to enhance their active, healthy, and meaningful aging is, we've got to take care, the planning has to be micro level. It's like major, macro level planning might be very difficult because we've already had the land use in places, the infrastructure in place. But yes, at the micro level, at the community level, we can always make so aged friendly. So see here, so that we can create a holistic environment and support system to enable the elderly optimize opportunities. So here with this, and Indian government, just want to highlight, Indian government is really taking care of elderly, with not only at their homes, the atmosphere has to be very sustainable and cozy and all, but outside of it also. That's for the reason every marketplace, everywhere you go, parks and everywhere, there is a sitting place, there is a toilet, separate, ladies' toilet. And when we are talking about elderly, we are talking in terms of so many things. Gender issues is coming here, able and disability is coming here. So we've got to kind of make it very holistic so that every individual, elderly, and all the differences in elderly in terms of gender, in terms of ability, in terms of any socio-economic background, any class, creed, caste, whatever, at any sphere of life, we should value our elderly. And in rural India, it's a way of life. It's a way of life. Elderly, healthy, active and meaningful aging is a way of life because, we have a larger space and lesser population and all that. So, but urban area needs to plan it at a micro level. Thank you so much, Professor Teresa. I just hope I'm on time.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Diali, for your very detailed presentation. Very good. Thank you. So I really agree with you that, you know, like the urban planning, the aging, you know, like friendly aging community would be very helpful to promote active aging. Yeah, thank you very much. So we'll hold the questions and we'll come to the last speaker. Our last speaker will be Dr. May Mendelsohn from Hawaii, USA. Dr. Mendelsohn is currently serving as Vice President of the Hawaii Intergenerational Network. She is the former Director and Professor in Residence of the Intergenerational Center at Chaminade University. She is also the President, Travel and Learn, an intergenerational study tour company. She has been an adjunct professor of social welfare policy at Hawaii Pacific University and the University of Hawaii School of Public Health, School of Social Work. She volunteers as a docent for the Honolulu Museum of Arts and Shangri-La, the Doris Duke Museum of Islamic Arts. She has served on the National Board of AARP, National AARP Foundation, and President of AARP Hawaii. In 2004, she received a resolution and commendation from the House of Representatives, State of Hawaii. She received Social Worker of the Year Award in Gerontology, NASW, National Association of Social Work, in 2007. Well, May is going to talk to us about her own experience volunteering at museums. So her topic today is active aging in the world of arts.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Gary. And Gary will be helping me with my slides. So art museums contribute to active aging is my topic. And as Paris Muse, the volunteers at the Louvre would say, what we are doing is making meaningful connections. Next, we have the next slide. Thank you. I have been actively aging as a volunteer docent at the Honolulu Museum of Art since 1977. I was, when selected as a docent, the museum offered me 2 years of art history education at the University of Hawaii. So I definitely have been aging in place in the museum world. Next. Docents, these are some of my colleagues. Docents are trained in art history, communication, and teaching skills. At this time, the museum has 75 docents. According to a Smithsonian survey of volunteers in 2017, the average age of volunteers was 58 and the median age was 64. Next. I also volunteer as a field guide at the Shangri-La Museum of Islamic Art, Culture, and Design. This home of billionaire Doris Duke has kept me fit through a 90-minute tour that includes lots of walking and climbing. One tour requires about 3,500 walking steps and ascending and descending about 53 stairs, which you can actually see run along the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, in the third photo. Next. The most visited museum in the world is the Louvre in Paris. It was founded in 1793. Its docent volunteer program called Paris Muse gives tours not only within the museum, but also within the city. Next. Thank you, Gary. The museums in the top 5 most visited in the world are the British Museum, which is the first national public museum, founded in 1753, and the National Museum of China, Beijing, which was founded in 2003. All count on volunteers to assist the public. I was intrigued by a program at the Beijing Museum called Treasure Hunt Relay, building a community with a shared future for mankind. So if you ever thought that museums were stuffy, you can see that they're changing considerably. On the right is my granddaughter involved in an exploration at the British Museum where they asked her to take on poses of different sculptures and paintings that she saw. She really thought that was fun. Next. Okay. The National Museum of Natural History, Washington, D.C., and the National Air and Space Museum are part of the Smithsonian Institution. This group of museums have programs for caregivers and individuals with dementia. Training had been developed at the Museum of Modern Art, MoMA, in New York City in partnership with Columbia University. They conducted the evaluation. A Smithsonian survey conducted in 2017 found the average age of volunteers to be 58 and a medium age as of 64. So maybe we would call them younger, older people. Slide 8, next. Next, thank you, Gary. All right, mission statements of museums are now including a commitment to accessibility. And this picture shows a combined group of older adults, including people in wheelchairs. And I think that much of this is quite new for museums. All right, next. Okay. This photograph by African-American photographer Roland Friedman is in the permanent collection of the National Museum of African-American History. Many museums made public statements of support in the United States for the African-American movement called Black Lives Matter. Realizing the desire to have an active community presence in support of diversity and equality, museums took on this particular activity for themselves and ensured that future exhibits would show more women artists and more indigenous work, as well as the art of different ethnic groups. Thank you. Next. That is my friend enjoying an outdoor museum called Storm King in the Hudson River Valley. She's actually taking on the pose of the sculpture. One of the things we have started to do is to allow visitors and especially students more time for self-guided exploration. I used to lecture a lot, but I don't lecture at all anymore. I encourage discussion and inquiry and lead young people to come to some of their own ideas and some of their own reflections on what they see before them. Next. Okay. Museums may include child-friendly exhibits, such as these figures and costumes from horror movies. We spent the day at the Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto, Canada. They have bat caves now with live bats at this museum. For older people, okay, museum visits with young people will ensure you will be very, very active. Those are my two grandsons right there. So we take a lot of intergenerational museum trips. Thank you, Gary. Next. Okay, the painting on the right, I guess that's the left side, was done by my grandchild when we were in London. Exploration at the British Museum in London included a treasure hunt designed by a group called That Muse. The prize was a small bag of chocolate coins. Next. So this is my museum, or our museum in Hawaii. Families are made to feel very much at home in the Honolulu Museum of Art. At the recent reopening, families engaged in craft activities throughout the museum and had picnics on the front lawn. That's my entire family, and they allowed us to go up there on that stoop with a very, very special sculpture called Penelope by the French sculptor Bourdin. I think several years ago, they'd never have allowed us to do that. And then on the right, docents and guards encouraged my grandchildren to stand like the sculpture or to reflect on the paintings that they saw. Next. One of the most important things that we could do in active aging certainly is the exploration of museums and exercise, but we should create art. We visited the homes and galleries of many of Japan's cultural treasures during our last trip to Japan. Then we went and learned the dye technique called shibori. So in terms of active aging, it's nice to look and to explore, but we should be creating as well. All right, next. As an example of that, after a tour of the National Gallery in London, the girls started their charcoal drawings in Trafalgar Square with an art instructor. That's the blonde woman. Gil and I, my husband Gil and I, actually did some pencil drawings at her encouragement. So she wanted this very much to be an intergenerational art activity. So there we are in Trafalgar Square. Next. What would I do as a docent and you were to come and see me? I would send you on a visual exploration. The patterns on the Verrocchio sculpture of David on the left are emulating Islamic Kufic calligraphy, just as the tiled walls of the niche at the Wallace Museum in London have been influenced by Islamic repetitive design. It's easy to just walk by a couple of pieces like this, as beautiful as they are. But what docent volunteers can do and what you can do for yourself as an explorer is quite simply spend a little more time with the pieces and set up your own exploration. Next. In this case, I would ask a group, compare the dome, arches, and use of light in the mosque at Cordoba with the same elements in the cathedral in Toledo, Spain. Next. Inclusive is a word along with diversity and accessibility that guide the activities and policies of museums, their staff, and volunteers today. It isn't enough just to preserve and hold in your basement or even on your walls these wonderful pieces. It's much more important to bring people to them so they can learn what their own creative energy can do, as well as study their own heritage and their own culture and that of others. Next. I wanted to come to an ending with my next few slides with the art of Yayoi Kusama, describing how art helped her with her fear, pain, and anxiety. This is how art can also help people out in the public and in the community. As she said, I fight pain, anxiety, and fear every day. And the only method I have found that relieved my illness is to keep creating art. I will follow that thread of art and somehow discover a path that would allow me to live. Next. This is the Yellow Pumpkin by Yayoi Kusama at Benesse, Naoshima Island, Japan. Probably one of her most famous pieces and certainly one of my most favorite. Next. Just recently in the typhoon in Japan, Ms. Kusama's Yellow Pumpkin floated. Luckily, it was caught up on the beach. And I don't know if they'll restore it or they will create another one. But that gave me a hint as to where I would end this presentation. And that is with the song Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan. I selected this song because it is often through the art we create and the musings that protect and share it that we are able to know our lost cultures and our heritage and pass it on to the younger generations. Thank you. So the song will be Blowing in the Wind by Bob. Thank you.
Thank you so much, May, for your wonderful presentation. You're really, really a living model of active aging. So we learned that museum and arts is also, they're, you know, good examples of what we can learn and volunteer when we retire. So thank you so much for your sharing.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you all the speakers for all the wonderful presentation and sharing of the activating songs. So now is the time for Q&A. So please put your questions to the Q&A box, and then I'll relay your questions. And thank you so much, Yi, for answering all the questions that were sent to her earlier. So she did answer on Q&A box already. Thank you so much for your questions, and Yi for your answers. Oh, Yi, you're still here. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you. It's already almost 5 o'clock your time.
It's okay. I enjoyed the lectures very, very much. They were very good, so I didn't want to go to sleep.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. It seems that we do not have any additional questions from the Q&A. So very good. Do you have any questions or comments you would like to make among the speakers?
I thought the lectures really complemented each other very nicely in talking about the importance of older people to continue to be engaged. And I think it's very important that the UN really has a focus on the active aging, on making sure that people feel they can contribute. I think the model by Professor Zaidi is very good because it gives an index, one number on how well countries have active aging, whether they promote this in their countries. And it gives an indication of where people can improve and allowing people to continue their jobs, but also to appreciate the care they provide to their children or their spouses, and how they can engage in all sorts of activities like the ones that Dr. May showed. I think, you know, it's wonderful. Art is such a good way to make people happy, and I think in the community centers in Indonesia, there's a lot of that. People do a lot of singing, a lot of music. There is a lot of working with the old crafts, which Indonesia is so very famous for. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Oh, I do have one question to all speakers. Do you think current technology is suitable for active aging? Talking about technology, can it help to make us active?
Professor Teresa, I
Professor,
have one question.
Oh,
I
yes?
have one question for me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I want to try to answer the question about the initiative happening for elder in Indonesia. I'm so sorry because limited time and I talk about the global, and if talk about Indonesia, so I'm not talk more about Indonesia. Thank you for the answer. For Indonesia, in the national level, we try to develop a new regulation about the aging in Indonesia based on the changing characteristic and image of aging, but still stuck in legislative level. So we have to strong effort for this. And for several ministries, we have aging policies. For example, in Ministry of Health, developing a national action plan for elderly health For the firstly is 2016 until 29, and secondly 2020 until 2024. The goal of the National Action Plan of Elderly Health include the strategy, action plan, and indicators to achieve the healthy aging by life cycle approach. Because we talk about aging is not only for the old age, but also for the young generation, how to achieve a life in an active life in the next future. And we start to give some socialization for people, include the young generation, to prepare the aging society era with healthy behavior, and also preparing for the financial. And for the elderly, they are given some knowledge and information about how to maintain their health and empower their capacity and capability. And another ministry like BKKBN, they develop an aging resilience program, or we call Lansia Tangguh with 7 dimensions. And the goal of this program is achieve an active aging. And for Ministry of Social, they develop a regulation about the age-friendly cities to support the elderly environment. And in the community level, we support the the intergenerational collaboration to active aging, and also support the older people to still active in the community based on capacity and capability. And for Bapenas, they develop the elderly information system about the long-term care program based on integrative system. And for the recommendation, they also the government need to meet the need of elderly in strengthening policy to pay attention and to protect against violence in the elderly, and need to take advantage of the digital era through aging initiation, such as guidance for the WHO in supporting the improvement of mobile health technology or health for the elderly health to active elderly. And the last, maybe it has answered the question, but I want to add some answer about the better living arrangement of elderly is to live with their family members. I think the best thing is to live with the family, because they can interact with their family. And we have a program living in 3 generations in one group. For my research found that older people who live with their family healthier than other people living in institution. And but for the implementation, this depends on the older person want or need, because where they live comfortability. Because sometimes we found in some research that they elderly have neglect or violence occurs in their family. I think this is my answer for several questions. Thank you, Prof. Teresa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. Yeah. Well, because of time, suddenly we have a lot of questions. Yeah, to all the interesting presentation. Maybe I'll ask Professor Ogawa to answer this question about technology. Is technology suitable for active aging? And oh, by the way, to all the audience, if you don't mind, can we extend for another 10 minutes? Because we do have a lot of questions coming in, if you don't mind. Okay, thank you. Professor Ogawa, please.
Okay, and in Japan, and the national government is aware of these very important issues of digital aging, yeah? And without digital innovations for the older persons, we cannot maintain the social system no more. Then we focus on these new technologies now. And the new technology is very useful for the better life for the older persons. And I know without computer devices, we cannot no more to contact with remote friends and relatives and other peoples. And we should know how to control or operate these kind of new technologies. It's a very important things. But still, we have some kind of a digital divide now. And it needs to trainings for the older person to acknowledge the importance and useful meanings of these utilizations of new technologies. I think this is a new topics in next era. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, another question is how to change people's mindset, to promote active aging. Can anybody just give a very short answer?
I would like to answer that.
Oh, thank you.
So, yes, so mindset is all because how you feel, how you are being brought up, what kind of attitude you are developed with and all. But since, mindset can be changed through proper information. One is awareness generation. The other one is, integrating the elderly more actively into cultural participation, social participation, community building. They should be given some responsibility as per their capability, right? As per the skills they have. And so that they would be acknowledged about their contribution, and they would be able to contribute more through their kind of lifelong experiences and awareness generation, and kind of enforcing the younger children to sit there with the elderly and then watch many programs together. Indian government has emphasized that, and these days they are emphasizing on joint family system since we were disintegrating so much. So we wanted to get back the tradition, of living together in the community, in the family, joint family. So what the government have started doing is even in the orphanages and all, where the children are kept there, the orphanages are kept with the elderly in them, so that, even though they don't have family of their own, but they can integrate with each other, help each other, know each other, and contribute to each other's life. And another thing is TV programs like mythology and all, Ramayana and all these kind of things that is being broadcasted, rebroadcasted. That used to happen when we were kids, So those kind of programs have started broadcasting, and now children, and intergenerational, it's like elderly children of any age, irrespective of the age, they sit together, they eat together, and they have fun watching that. So that those are a few things to promote at the micro level in the family system.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, or maybe can someone just answer very briefly on another question? How to encourage older people to step out to socialize in the period of pandemic? Just a short answer.
I think Professor Takeo sent the prize-winning initiative in Indonesia, where they used the cadres, the volunteers, to go out to the older people when lockdown hit, to do quick checks on them, to talk to them about their health, but also to provide that social interaction, because it's really important that older people aren't left alone and participate. So I think that initiative was wonderful.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Prize for
thank
it.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Oh, May, there is a question specifically addressed to you. Brian said that your presentation is a fascinating presentation. And what has been your most significant learning as a docent?
My most significant learning as a docent has been not to lecture or talk too much, but really to let other people come forward and speak, whether they're children, young people. When I was first trained, we learned so much art history and then we were expected to lecture. I don't anymore. We use what is called an inquiry method. And it's much more fun for me too. So yes, that is what I've learned, is this new technique called inquiry.
Sure, we all have to learn, you know, we all teachers, we all have to learn from this, your experience. So thank you so much all for, you know, joining today's session. And thank you all the speakers for your wonderful presentation and all the, you know, answers and all the wonderful questions. Yeah, I just have a few take-home messages from today's speaker, if I may summarize. In the beginning, Dr. Lily said that, you know, research has shown that the negative self-image and portrayal of aging found to be damaging to physical, mental, behavioral, and social functioning of older adults. So therefore, we need to construct new images of aging in society as healthy, well-groomed, outgoing, capable, and active members of the community. And the use of activating indexes is a wonderful tool. And we also need to shift our mindset of older adults from being dependent to pioneer. And also, you know, age-friendly community, physical environment is also very important to promote active aging. So the society, everybody is helping older adults to stay active. I think we all have to start from ourselves as well. I once heard a quote. It says that you become old when you give up. So the thing is, we should not give up ourselves when we get old. We all should have to stay active and should have dreams for a happier life. And then we should carry on with our meaningful activities, such as becoming a pioneer of society or become docents of museums. Yeah. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody. And I would like at this time to, as a grand finale, I would like to introduce to you a song which I like very much. And this is a song from Indonesia. It's called Halo Bemang. It was an important song. Yeah, an important song during the Indonesian independence, which was celebrated on the 17th of August. This is played by the retired lecturers from University of Indonesia. So I would like to thank Professor Trubudi for sharing this song with me. And as a grand finale, I would like to play this song, and I wish everybody stay active and healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.